Hi all, Losdy Punch Out TV. How you all doing out there on this Wednesday evening? Hope you're all good, fine and dandy. I want to talk about Alexander Usyk if he was put back in the 90s with the 90s heavyweights. Where would you see him? Would you think that he'd have been up there in the mix with him? Maybe a world champion? Would he have beaten the likes of Evander Holyfield, Mike Tyson, Ray Mercer, Big Daddy Bo, fighters like that, Tommy Morrison, all great fighters from the 90s, Lennox Lewis, things like that. I think about this all the time. Now, I know it's a question what can never be answered, quite obviously, because of different eras, but I sometimes try to rack my brain about this because if you think about it, obviously for me the heavyweight division is nothing like what it used to be back in the 90s. I do believe the fighters were better back in the 90s. But for me, Alexander Usyk is a guy. Obviously he's done what Evander Holyfield done, cleaned house at cruiserweight, came up, became a unified heavyweight champion, and obviously now undisputed after knocking that turnip about a few weeks ago. But for me, he's a guy he's got all the great fundamentals of a great fighter from back in their days, like Evander Holyfield, Lennox Lewis. He's a warrior. He's a gym rat. He eats, sleeps, and breathes boxing. He's very disciplined. And I sometimes think, I was speaking to a lad at work about it, he just talking about Evander Holyfield, would he have beaten a prime Holyfield? If you'd have asked me that a year ago, I'd have said no. Or maybe a bit longer, I'd have said no. But now, I really don't know because, like I say, obviously in Holyfield's day, I do believe the fighters were better in the 90s, but I believe he would have been in the mix with them. I'm not saying he'd have beaten all of them, but I think he truly would have beaten some of them and maybe become a world champion because of how devoted this guy is to boxing, how disciplined he is, how great fundamentally his skill is, his IQ, ring IQ, and stuff like that. The guy is an absolute. Well, he's a for me a modern day sort of like Holyfield, Lennox Lewis, them type of fighters. He's a true warrior. But I mean, for me, the heavyweights weren't as big back then as what they are now. So, the likes of Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury, Daniel Dubois, he dealt with them easy. Now, I'm not talking about skill-wise, I'm just on about size-wise. So he can prove that size is not a problem to him. And just to go off the boil a little bit, it begs to differ how some people still think that Tyson Fury can beat this guy. Well, let me tell you something. Tyson Fury will never beat him. Never. And especially when you see stuff like what he was doing yesterday. Falling out of pubs, pissed out of his face and stuff like that. That's not discipline. Whereas Alexander Usyk's got discipline. He's, like I said before, he eats, sleeps and breathes boxing. So, I don't know, man. The guy's got great skill. I think he would have been up there with him. I really do. Even though I'm repeating myself, the level of boxing, heavyweight boxing, is nothing like what it was back in the 90s. The fighters for me were a lot more. They were just better fighters. And I know it's like fantasy boxing because, like I say, it can never be. This question can never be answered. But I truly believe that he would have been in the mix up there with the elites of back in the 90s. I honestly do. There was something I was going to say, but I forgot. Slipped my mind. But you know, some people say, "Oh, he's beaten the two of the elite, the top, what I consider the top heavyweights." Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua. I would like to see more of him. Fighting people like Zhang, Joseph Parker, because that's how you really get a true look of a legend of the sport. Because somewhere along them lines there might be a fighter where he'll come undone. He'll come unstuck. The likes of Ajit Kabayel, who no one thought was, 6 months ago. No one mentioned this dude. And all of a sudden he's come out of nowhere. He's taking those like it's no problem. Joseph Parker reinventing himself. Even the likes of Daniel Dubois taking those. But to get a true look at a legend, that's what them in the 90s were doing. They were, Holyfield was fighting Burt Cooper, Mike Tyson, Michael Dokes, all people like that. And they were all mixing it up, all of them. So that's why I consider the 90s heavyweights obviously better, because they were all mixing. But it's a shame that I don't think you'll ever see Alexander Usyk fight the likes of Ajit Kabayel, Zhang, Parker, all these other heavyweights, because obviously he's tied into this deal now with Tyson Fury if this fight ever does happen. But even though I don't think you'll see them fights, for me he's the best. He's head and shoulders above all the heavyweights in this era. But I honestly believe, watching him, follow him on Instagram and Twitter and stuff like that, you just see how the guy trains, how he lives his life. It's all about the sport. He's got great skill, great IQ, great foot movement. He's got everything. It's a shame he's not a bigger puncher, but you don't always need to be a banger to win. As this guy shows, he's world class for me. But what do you lot think? Do you think he would have held his own in the mix with the 90s? Would he have beaten the likes of Big Daddy Bo or, Lennox Lewis, someone like that? Or, Mike Tyson, Ray Mercer, Michael Bent, Michael Dokes, Tommy Morrison, Michael Moorer, all the great fighters like that. I believe he would have been in the mix. But let me know what you think, because I'll be interested to read your comments and see what you think. Anyway, I'll be back probably tomorrow or Friday with a video for Tank Davies versus Frank Martin. I'm going to try and stay up and watch that fight, because I like Tank. I like watching him. He's an exciting fighter. But yeah, let me know what you think. Anyway, peace out. Catch you on the next one.